So in music, you may inherit your talim, you may inherit your knowledge of music, but your vision, your musical vision is your musical vision. That is not something anybody can give you. You are lucky that you haven't had to go and acquire it, and it's been passed down to you. But the value diminishes in time if you can't make it grow. It doesn't matter how many hours you do, but you got to do it every day. Also, beyond a certain point, it shouldn't get too ritualistic. So you shouldn't do it because you have to. Just like when you pray to God, you shouldn't do it because somebody has told you should pray to God. You shouldn't do it because if I don't pray to God, bad things will happen, or if I pray to God, good things will happen. No. You pray to God, you connect with that energy, you connect with that supreme divine energy because you want to. So practice is like that. I think not a day goes by when I don't want to just touch my instrument.
How did your music journey begin?
My musical journey began when I was all of 3 years old, and my dad made me sit down and sing. It was a very carrot stick kind of situation where he would give me little incentives. I think my incentive at that point was, West Indies were touring in India. And three and a half, when I started, initially it was just like you have to sit and sing sa. So that's how it all started. But when I was 4 and a half, 5, and the first time, I picked up the sitar and I was just playing a little bit. Incentive was to watch India play the West Indies, and we had Clive Lloyd's West Indies team touring, and my cricket hours were limited to the number of hours I would practice. I mean, it was directly proportional. If I practiced for an hour, then I could watch, a couple of hours of a cricket match. Interestingly, I picked up the sitar when I was in Switzerland. I was touring with my dad, and we were somewhere outside Bern, in a little village. There was a cottage owned by my father's student, and he had bought a sitar in India for his son, who was about my age. I was about 4 and a half, 5. And so I was given that sitar, which was not a full-size sitar. It was a little smaller than a full-size sitar. So I played that for, I think, 2 months. Then I came back home. Then straight away my dad gave me a full-size sitar. And he was like, better get used to this. And I still remember there's a photo of me trying to reach the top fret. I was too small to, my hands were too small to. From there to, trying to figure out how to make a career. I mean, these were days when I was 5 and 6. I was not even thinking of a career, And then I think when I was 12, I started getting passionate about the music. And incidentally, I was in Indonesia at that time. And I had heard a recording of Pandit Nikhil Banerjee's Marwa, I still remember. And that got me very charged, and I wanted to play like that. And then came the times of, making the difficult decisions, whether to continue my academic career, which I did. I did my bachelor's in English literature, and then my dad wanted me to study engineering, so whether to pursue a professional course or to do music. So going from there to then suffering the disillusionments of a musical career, figuring things out the hard way. I don't want to, really kind of share anything negative, but seeing a little bit of just this and that, and knowing how to deal with it. And today I realize that when you see the this and that, that's what makes you. That's what makes you see the larger picture. That's what makes you realize that you can get ahead of it. And even bigger than that is that life is short, and although we set ourselves goals and we want to achieve something, we want to get an award or whatever, but at the end of it, what is most important is to remain happy and to enjoy the process of building something in your life, whatever that thing is. And I think that is the greatest realization and takeaway from all of this.
What or who were your early influences in music?
I started off very sort of classical, very puritanical when it came to music. I was given that kind of upbringing, and from there to really loving Lata Mangeshkar, Kishore Kumar, Mohammad Rafi. So when it came to films, I was allowed to love these people. But when it came to classical music, of course, my father's guru, Pandit Nikhil Banerjee, who has been one of my lifetime idols, I feel, not only musically, but what that man achieved in terms of creating his own niche, despite so many great masters of the art, being around and being in full flow, is what I respect. And, Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab, Amir Khan Sahab, and then on to, for the biggest time of my life, I have been, worshipping, somebody like Ustad Zakir Hussain, who is a role model for all of us, because I think he has shown a few generations of artists what it is like to be a global citizen, to speak a language which gets through to every segment of society, to make your music speak to everybody, and do this all while living a larger than life existence, but keeping it so real as a person, keeping it so grounded. And even to this day, when we interact with him or get the opportunity of being on stage with him, he makes it seem so easy. And that's so these were the early musical influences. Then getting progressing, my dad took me to Pandit Ajoy Chakravarti to learn vocal music, and I've had a many year association which continues to this day, where he guides me on various aspects of bandishes, thumris. I've had a long association with his daughter Kaushiki, who is my childhood friend, and we make music together. We've done a lot of duets, and in that process also interacting with Kaushiki, I've learned so many things about thumris, about how vocal music should be approached. Then onwards to some of my contemporaries, I started playing with Rakesh Bhai also, again, as I said, the better part of 3 decades. I learned so much about how the flute is as an instrument, how you can approach music from a flute player's perspective as well as from a folk instrument's perspective. Onwards to Carnatic music, I've had my friends there. I started playing with Shashank, the flute maestro. I played with virtually everybody from Ravi Kiran to Jayanti Kumresh, who was also part of my Shastriya Syndicate ensemble, to some of the great percussionists, Viku Vinayak Ramji. So yeah, it's been a lot of that till I think somewhere around my early adult life, I was 18 or 19 when I got the chance of going to San Anselmo to live and study with Ustad Ali Akbar Khan Sahab in the true Guru Shishya Parampara. That's when I started getting exposed to jazz music, to the music of Ornette Coleman, to the music of Miles Davis, to the music of all the great jazz players, really. Because I was in California, and there were people around who would listen to like John Coltrane's solos. I started realizing how he plays outside the key, and to the world of harmony in general. So that was my initial exposure, and that love story continued and culminated in Unbounded, I think. So I've pretty much given you the journey, and now I guess it's back full circle when we do Saath Saath. We do a pure classical album. I've released a bunch of classical albums, but this is a very special one because it kind of culminates, it sums up this entire journey. There are a lot of outside influences of other musical cultures which I think the listener will be able to hear in the Saath Saath tracks, you know.
You come from a musical family. How do you deal with inheritance? And is it a pressure?
So I'll tell you, and I've mentioned this in past interviews also, inheritance is what you make of it. On its own, it has an intrinsic value because you've been given, जिसको हम विरासत बोलते हैं, you've been given something, it has been passed down to you. You are lucky that you haven't had to go and acquire it, and it's, you know, it's been passed down to you, but the value diminishes in time if you can't make it grow. Inheritance literally is very much the same when it comes to the inheritance of wealth. I mean, a prime example of this is Dhirubhai Ambani and what the Ambani brothers, Mukesh Ambani and Anil Ambani, have done with, you know, with the wealth that they acquire. It's not only about wealth; it's about an infrastructure. It's about you know, a business kingdom. It's about so in music, you know, you may inherit your talim, you may inherit your knowledge of music, but your vision, your musical vision is your musical vision. That is not something you can, anybody can give you. You've got to make that vision on your own. You've got to acquire it on your own, and it's what you do with it and what you leave behind is what matters, you know.
Talk us about your training during your early days. Did you like it?
See, when you're 5 and 6 years old, you have to be forced. You are not going to be, you know, want to sit in one place and learn or practice for hours. So I won't lie. I mean, my dad, as I said, there was a carrot stick policy. Even when I was, you know, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old, I would go to school and he would say, you have to practice. There's this whole thing about discipline, I think, which is very important in life. It doesn't matter how many hours you do, but you got to do it every day. And also, it, beyond a certain point, it shouldn't get too ritualistic. So you shouldn't do it because you have to. At some point, if for your entire life you continue doing something just out of sanskar because somebody has told you ki ye karna acha hai and you should do it, then you're not going to get anywhere with it. That becomes a ritual. Just like when you pray to God, you shouldn't do it because somebody has told you you should pray to God. You shouldn't do it because if I don't pray to God, bad things will happen, or if I pray to God, good things will happen. No. You pray to God, you connect with that energy, you connect with that supreme divine energy because you want to. So practice is like that. You should, I think not a day goes by when I don't want to just touch my instrument. And yes, there are some days when you are not in the mood to play for a long time, but for the sake of discipline, I'll still take out my instrument, and you know, my students are there, so somebody will come, we'll just play a few notes, few phrases. If I'm not, I don't force myself, and then we'll clean the instrument and put it away. But this is you doing your giving your dues to the instrument, to the subject. And so I didn't it was not so easy to starting out, but I think once I was about 13, 14, 15, I got to a point where I loved the music and I wanted to do it. You know, jazz and Indian classical music, although they are completely two different worlds, but in the philosophy in which the music is approached, in the spirit of improvisation, is very similar. What you're holding upright is a canvas and a frame, and within that you are free to paint as you like. So if you want to invite somebody else to paint on your musical canvas, the best thing is to give them a free run.